Welcome everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back, hopefully. And firstly, you okay, babe?
Are you okay? I'm doing great today, yeah. Just a little bit.
Yeah, really happy.
Saturday feelings.
I keep thinking it's a Sunday. I'm not
It
gonna
is a bit
lie.
mad, yeah.
And
will
it's Kate's
be a
birthday
Sunday.
tomorrow, so just a little happy birthday for
Happy
Kate
birthday
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Thank you. I know. I'm feeling very loved.
Oh,
So-
good.
You
So
are
should
very
be,
loved.
babe.
We love
So
having you
should
here.
be.
So today, do you want to introduce or do you want me to introduce?
You go for it.
So today we're going to be talking about the menstrual cycle phases. We'll start off with that and then hopefully, go into a bit more detail later on.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give a little bit of a basic information about menstruation and cycle phases. So when you go through your menstruation, your periods, whatever word you like to use, we're hoping that we can say menstruation more often.
Yeah. Become more normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
try and make it more normal because it is a very normal part of a woman's life.
Absolutely, yeah.
We literally deal with it once a month,
Mhm.
you know, it is important for us to talk about. So the follicular phase, so day 5 to 14 is the follicular stimulating hormone, commonly known, especially in healthcare, as FSH, and that spikes leading to egg growth. So the follicles in the ovaries develop and mature, and typically how you would feel is cheery, energetic, quite happy in this phase.
It's the best
Yeah.
part.
That's-
isn't
yeah,
it?
that's the best
when
part.
You're feeling your best out, most
Yeah.
outgoing.
That is the good
Yeah, which
phase,
is
as
just
you would
after
say.
you've bled.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you go on to the ovulation phase, which is day 14. So it's typically 1 day, 24 hours, and the LH surges, triggering ovulation. So basically the release of a mature egg from the ovary, and usually in this phase is when you might be feeling quite sexually turned on, alert.
They're the most fertile.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Which is worth knowing, obviously, around family planning, you know.
Absolutely.
gosh, yeah.
If
to know
people
when
are
you're
trying for
ovulating.
babies, this is like the perfect day.
That's the perfect day, yeah.
The one day.
So some people at this phase, as we kind of spoke about earlier, didn't we? You might get a bit of like mild pelvic discomfort. Sometimes people say they can feel the egg literally
ovary,
releasing
yeah.
from the ovary, which is very common as well. Then we go on to the luteal phase, day 15 to 24. So this is when the progesterone levels rise and the thickening of the uterine level starts. So the uterus then prepares basically for pregnancy, and usually this is at the point in your period where you feel really, really bloated, moody, tender breasts. It's not the nice phase, and
And sadly, it's the longest one.
it's the longest one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is when people tend to feel PMS symptoms, but we will, go into that a little bit more in a minute. And then obviously the end phase, day 24 to day 28, if everything goes to plan, is the menstruation phase. So this is where the hormone level drops, triggering the shedding of the uterine lining. So typically the hormonal changes, the uterine lining is shed through the vagina. Obviously that's the bleeding and the periods
So that's
that
the
you get.
typical,
Yeah.
I'm on my period.
Yeah,
It's
so that's
that
the
point,
I'm on my
obviously, where
period, I'm
you're
bleeding, I'm basically shedding the lining. And typically in this phase as well, tired, mood swings, quite a lot of cramping. Obviously that's different for every woman.
Absolutely.
They're not all textbook, they're
No.
not all exactly as that. And what I would say for anyone, that's ever worried about bleeding or worried about periods is that what is normal for you?
Yeah, cycle lengths are so different. It can be between sort of 24 to 28, obviously outside of that. So yeah, it's not going to look the same for everyone, so it's nothing to panic about if that
If
looks
it's different, yeah.
for you,
All I'd say is just what is normal for you.
Yeah.
What is a normal amount of days and what is a normal amount of bleeding.
Getting
And if
to
it's
know yourself
just
about
know
it,
who you are and know how your body works. Obviously if things are slightly different to that and you're worried, that's obviously when you can go into the GP and obviously hopefully get some help if you're worried.
But we reflected on that in that obviously before today we'd done a little bit more reading, a bit more research, and it's like we reflected that there's things that we just don't know.
Yeah, 100%.
And considering it is, like you say, something that happens for us every month, actually looking at what's happening. Like, obviously a lot of people don't know that they bleed every month, but what's actually happening biologically and with your hormones and with the change of hormonal imbalance. Yeah, it isn't something that is readily
absolutely.
People
and I
know
was quite surprised really, like why don't I know this?
I know.
Like,
it should be something
like we literally do it every month, but I haven't got a clue what's going on until today when
there's absolutely no shame in that, because this is what we're here for, to talk about it more, so that it is more of a I know what phase I'm in, this is what's going on for me, so
it's okay to feel like that.
And it's about learning your body, isn't it? And like, understanding and accepting why you might feel a certain way. If you are feeling a bit low or a little bit extra, like more hungry or a little bit more aggy, then these are like the explanations for this. I mean, obviously there could be like a lot more other things going on in somebody's life, but you know, 9 times out of 10, you know, you really, when you're actually looking into this shit, you really relate with it.
And it's important to know, isn't it? Because like when you're having those really bad days where you just feel your breasts are sore and you're moody and just everything's, you know, you drop your pen on the floor and you're ready to scream about it. It's important to know that, you know, that you are in like a phase and your body is changing like weekly, daily.
Because you could start doubting yourself quite easily.
Absolutely.
You know,
like, is this me? Why am I so irritable? But
you know, so we've all had days where you've burnt the toast, you know, and then like there's traffic and it's just and those days can obviously really affect you anyway. But if you're at that part of your cycle where you are feeling irritable, it's understandable for that to be more intense for you. So it's good to know.
Like you know, reading into this, like I'm always like a little bit moody before my like cycle, you know, starts and my uterus sheds. But it'll be like about 4 or 5 days where I'm like really aggy and miserable. And then I come on my period and I'm like, and
you're like, that was why.
That is why I was still feeling like this.
Like you cry, like you're sobbing the day before, and I'm like crying over like this random advert.
That is the worst, isn't it? Adverts get all the time, really, really crazy things like adverts and like the donkey charity.
that one gets us all, G. That gets us all.
It's terrible, absolutely awful.
So, on to PMS. PMS is premenstrual syndrome, also known as premenstrual tension. So PMS or PMT. So that's those, you know, like you say, a few days before.
Absolutely,
where we're feeling, you know, I suppose it is, you know, tension. And it's in that luteal phase where, you know, you've got sore boobs, you're feeling irritable. And I think that's something that needs to be spoken about a bit more, you know, around how you're feeling is something that we relate to as well.
So like some of the other symptoms, obviously irritability, you know, really silly things are just that never normally bother you are going to really bother you in that phase. You know, the breast tenderness, back pain, cramping even, like some people feel like before you even go into the menstruating stage.
Appetite changes,
absolutely.
We spoke earlier, didn't we, about like that sometimes craving chocolate, which we've linked to the fact that actually it's nutrients and there's magnesium in chocolate and you know,
low in magnesium, so that's why your body's going, I want chocolate,
I need it. And actually your body does need it.
This is it. So I suppose
eat that chocolate bar.
It's moving that stigma around, because I think there is a expectation for women to be like craving chocolate or carbs, and it's like looking at you are, because your body actually does want the magnesium, and that was something that was quite a revelation to me recently. It was like, that's why
it makes sense, like and it's always good to know, isn't it, like that you're not just like pigging out on loads of chocolate for no reason.
So, taking care of the partner with
scientific research to say that we need chocolate. So take it. Another one is changes in libido. Like that can be massive around this time, this phase.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially coming from that high of like ovulation as well, where you probably are feeling higher libido. They almost feel a crash a bit, you know. So
and you look at your partner and think, I'm just not attracted. Like,
no, hormones do play a big part in that.
They do. And I think that phase in particular is one where people do doubt things, and they think, why am I like looking at you? You're not hitting the spot today. Whereas like 3 days ago,
sorry, Shane,
I couldn't keep my hands off you. So, and I do think that that's something that as well you need to just kind of like learn about in your body, and you know,
but also for partners, like I say, I think it is really important, because obviously your partner could take that personally. It's not actually that phase in the cycle, and if it is that you're feeling irritable or you're craving chocolate or just something like that, about how your partner can support you, or just anyone, obviously generally who you're around, can understand how your cycle affects you and what can be helpful. Always is treating people with kindness. Always the best advice I could give anyone on that.
Be nice, be supportive, just be gentle. It's a time where we just need to be gentle on ourselves, and you know, remind ourselves as well that, you know, we're still you know, strong women. And we can still do things.
No, that is so true though, because I was
doubt ourselves.
Thinking about this recently around imposter syndrome,
and
I think you are at such a vulnerability for imposter syndrome in PMS in that luteal phase, because it is like just doubts coming in, and I think that will only be worse if you don't know what's going on for you biologically, and in that phase you're going to just have more doubt because you don't have the understanding about it. So that's why the education is really helpful.
Of course it is. And like obviously the causes of PMS are the hormone, changes in the hormones, the chemical changes in the brain. Obviously we were speaking, a little bit earlier, weren't we, about like people that are already depressed,
and
already
got a
going
predisposition
through, mental health conditions. PMS can be more severe,
exaggerated.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So we were talking as well about treatments, and it's probably your baby better than mine,
so around, obviously, if you have noticed that you're feeling affected in your cycles, that you're feeling the effects of PMS, when you look to seek treatment, it might be around like contraceptive treatment, because that's looking at hormone imbalances. But also there's a relationship between estrogen and serotonin. So estrogen being hormonal, serotonin's a neurotransmitter. So what serotonin is a chemical that helps us to feel happy. So we can have low levels of serotonin in this, in your cycle, and in relation to a low level of estrogen. So antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, which are SSRIs, which basically help us to keep healthy levels of serotonin in our brains. How to best describe that is, if you imagine a bath, a doctor did explain this to me once. If you imagine a bath without the SSRI medication, the water's just sort of going through the plug hole, and that's the serotonin. But with the SSRI medication, the plug's there, so we've got a nice healthy level that's staying in the bath. It's a nice way to explain it. So that can help. It's always worth looking into if you are feeling that you've got low mood, and especially if you are feeling that it's a pattern, to seek further help with a healthcare professional.
And I do think it's important to add, when we do talk about like treatments and things, that you might go to the GP and they say, we'll try you on this, maybe a pill, contraceptive pill, but it's important to not just stick to one. If you find after a couple of months that that's really not suiting you, there's so many things out there.
It doesn't have to mean that that's it.
There's so many different types of contraception, and we are lucky in that respect that there are. And there's different types of contraceptive pills. There's the coils, the hormonal coils, the injections,
and they will all affect your hormones slightly differently. So you will have a bunch of women that are absolutely fantastic on the combined pill, but that doesn't actually suit everyone, and that's okay. And that's what we're kind of here for, is to say, if you're not happy, you're not feeling right, you don't think it's working, you're still getting a lot of symptoms, or if it's because your bleeding's abnormal and you're trying to regulate your bleeding, come back to us, have a chat, and like you say, we are lucky to have all of those options. So don't just kind of stick with it if you feel like it's not.
Just have the conversation about it as well.
Just a conversation.
Just because you were going to seek some support doesn't mean you have to then start something. It can just be thinking about it, having that discussion, speaking to friends,
absolutely,
just making it more normal.
Absolutely, just bringing it into the topic of conversation, isn't it?
And I think as well, the best thing to do is obviously maybe keep a bit of a diary on your cycle. And then obviously you can take that then to the GP. So
that's always helpful.
You've got like an app, don't you, that you use?
I use P-Tracker. We will link it for you.
You love P-Tracker.
I love P-Tracker. And actually I was looking at it recently, and I've been using it for 10 years.
Wow.
So what, since you were 14?
Yeah.
That's mad.
Wow.
So on there, and it'll tell you what day of your cycle you're on. It'll tell you when you're fertile. It'll tell you when you're ovulating, and you can put on there when you're intimate, so you can have a record of that. You can put it onto pregnancy planning mode. You can put it onto actual pregnancy mode, and then it'll count down to your due date. So there's loads of different features on there, but it's really helpful to know then how long your cycle is. It will count you down to when your periods come in as well, so you know that you're 4 days away or however long away. Which, like we spoke earlier, if you're feeling different, go onto the app and you go, oh, I'm due in 2 days.
That's why
that makes sense. So, and you can put little notes on there, you can put symptoms, you can put moods. So if it was that you wanted to track how you were feeling and then seek some further support, it's nice to have that written down and just documented for you mainly, always for you mainly. But obviously, if you did want to seek further support, that's what they'd ask for.
Yeah, and it's good to have it there because you kind of, you know, you don't have to then go away and do that and then come back again. You've already gone
it's so
with all
convenient.
of it.
It's convenient. I mean, everyone carries a phone round with them in the pocket, so like it's a lot better than, well, it depends what you prefer. If you would prefer an actual journal, then that's fair enough, but for me, I find it really convenient to just be like, okay, started, or
it's in your pocket,
or if you're feeling different, because you don't always remember. I mean, when I was looking at it from about like 10 years ago, I don't remember feeling how I was feeling, but it's interesting to see that it's documented, because you might not know that there's a pattern until you
and I suppose as well, like the longer you do use it for, the better it gets to know you and your cycle as well. So do you find that after obviously 10 years it's like accurate to the day?
Oh no, it is. Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah, no, it really is. Yeah, no, it really is accurate to the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, I want to download it.
Yeah, I know.
Look at that.
I am not being paid commission for this.
No, yeah,
this app.
But if you want
it, shout out to P-Track. Hit me up if you want me to be an ambassador, because we will love you. Love you, P-Track. But there is Flow as well. A few of my friends use Flow.
Yeah, that's another one that's used
and
quite
I think that one is different. I think it gives you notifications. I don't know if I just got notifications turned off. It sends you like positive things and like just
that.
Sweet little things,
just to give
a
you
little
bit a little boost.
Sometimes you just need that, don't you? When you open your phone in the morning, like a nice little, you know, you're gonna do great today, girl.
Yeah,
like, that's what you need.
Yeah.
So roughly, I think period tends to start from anywhere from like 9 till about 16.
Yeah.
But obviously there are cases where, you know, people get them earlier than that and people get them later.
Yeah.
I think it all depends on your own body. I think they're more like
more unusual cases when they're really young.
Yeah, usually it's high school age, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or, you know, and that's the typical thing around when anyone's hitting puberty is around high school age. So going to high school, which is important to mention that it's a difficult time of life anyway. If it is in that year when you're moving up from, you know, from primary school to secondary school, you're dealing with a lot of change, and then you're dealing with a lot of body changes as well. Inside Out 2, the new Disney movie, that includes puberty this time.
Does it?
Yeah,
that's really good. I'm glad.
So I don't know if either of you have you watched Inside Out?
No.
So it's basically emotions in this young girl Riley's mind, and the second one is she's 13. So there's this like big red button, puberty. Like they hit the button, and then she's got all these. It's when she first experiences anxiety and like. So I thought when I watched that it was really good.
That's
to put,
really
like,
important.
Education out there.
Yeah. It's good to have like a media coverage of it more so, isn't it? Because like we want to be able to relate to people.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's not spoken about enough, is it, on TV?
Because what were your experiences of, you know, education around periods? I remember my mum told me about periods. I have an older sister as well, so I think I was quite lucky in having that support network and open conversations and non-judgmental conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
But not everyone's in that position, so I think things like that, like Disney movies that are acknowledging it, you're more likely to sort of come across that if you didn't have, you know, a relation who can talk to you about it.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. I mean, I was lucky, like a very open family that spoke about it, and still scary because you still don't really fully understand it, do you? And I think there is a lot of stigma around, obviously, you know, worrying that you're going to bleed through your uniform when you're in high school, and
which can easily happen.
You know, it doesn't matter,
especially when you're so young and you're so new to having periods, you don't know how heavy you're going to be. You know, so you might not know what products to use.
That's what I mean. Which product do you use? Like you just expected to know which one's the best or suits you, but
when you've never had a period,
absolutely,
it takes time, doesn't it, to figure that out? And I think that's really important. And I mean, but in my experience was relatively positive. I do remember having like a period of time where I was so anxious about going to school when I was on my period. Yeah, because I was so worried about leaking on the chair and people taking, you know, making fun of me, and you know, and I think it's not talked about enough at school, is it, to make it okay?
And I suppose, I think, like, obviously, if you do sports, if you do PE in school, you know, getting changed could be something, obviously, you're more conscious of, and so...
And as well, like, even if, you know, there are girls who are quite open about it, it can be a little bit you know, stressful time for girls who are starting later, who haven't actually had their first period as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's always great, like, good to be mindful of others as well, you know, that,
yeah. Can be different ages.
Yeah, and, you know, it just comes to everybody so differently, doesn't it?
And that's why I think it's really important as women and as young girls, is that, you know, we are tackling the stigma around periods, and we are, you know, talking about it, and, like, we're, you know, being able to, you know, have a conversation about it, speak about it, open up to your friends about it, is really important, because we shouldn't be ashamed to talk about something that is so natural to a woman. Like, you know, why do we feel ashamed? This is our monthly thing.
It's just so,
you know,
like, it's just so normal.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same as, and it's similar to, like, breastfeeding and things like that. It's just the most natural things. So why is it something that ever does have a stigma? You know, it's like using period products. Obviously, it can be noisy with ripping the plastic and getting it open, and you can feel conscious, especially in, like, school toilets or public toilets, that, like, you're making a lot of noise. Like, you might want to, like, flush the chain or put the hand dryer on, and you shouldn't have to, because you know. And I would, when you think about it in that other perspective, I would never be in a public toilet and be like, oh, someone's getting a period. I just wouldn't even think about it.
I wouldn't even give it a second thought.
No, so why do we think that anyone else would?
Why do we think anybody cares about what we're doing, you know? And it is because that stigma is, like, you know, starts so early on, doesn't it? You know, stigma from, you know, people just not wanting to talk about it, you know, oh, I don't want to hear about that, or oh, I'm not going to buy your tampons or your period pads, or you know.
some you know, maybe some partners wouldn't want to buy the partner period products in the shop. Why?
It's no different to buying toilet roll, is it?
No, just like, it's such an essential thing that why is there any stigma around it?
From working in a supermarket, I mean, obviously I'm a woman, so it never bothered me anyway, but, like, I would never think, you know, if someone was putting a pack of tampons in,
what are you going to think?
Oh, you're on your period. Like, you just don't
think no one does think
like,
but why do we think that we think like that? It's bizarre, isn't it?
It's like, I think it's because there's such a, like, a taboo subject. Like, even now, like, when I'm buying them, I'm like, oh gosh, they're gonna know that I'm on my period.
My God.
I'm a 26-year-old woman. Like, why
am a 26-year-old woman?
Why am I getting, like, anxious?
I think you do feel as though it's like a vulnerability, but it's not a vulnerability.
Not at all.
But, like, that is maybe how you feel around it. That, like, you wouldn't want someone to know that information, but, like, it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to make it that big of a deal.
No, of course not. I don't think the media helps, though. I don't think media influences help with that. I don't, you know, there's the one I think at the top of my head is, like, Superbad 2007, where a woman leaks her trousers, and, you know, it's called disgusting, and, you know, why is it disgusting? It's literally a natural human thing, like, that we have literally had since the start of time, and yet we're still here now discussing it all these years later, when women have literally had it since the start of time. Like, it's never going to change. It's always going to be the same. Women are always going to have periods.
Absolutely.
Why are we not just
I've seen
more?
TikTok videos recently. There's this girl who's doing exposure therapy, rejection therapy she's calling it, where she's doing things, she puts herself in uncomfortable circumstances to just help her anxiety and to just, you know, build her confidence. And one of the things that she did was ask a couple of strangers if they had a period product, if they had a pad or a tampon, and every single interaction they had, like, the women were just so lovely. They were like, either like, oh my god, no, I'm so sorry, I don't, or like, yeah, I do, of course I do, and like, I would just never think twice of it. If someone asked me for a period pad, I'd just be like, yeah,
absolutely.
You'd never think twice, would you?
No, so I think it is that movement of women supporting women, and I think we've come a really nice long way in that I think there is more of it. I would feel fine asking someone for a period
absolutely
product.
And I think as well, it is when you, like, when I remember being in middle school and high school, and I think it was Little Lads, the company. They used to have these, like, little metal tins, and you could open it up, and you used to get, like, 2 or 3 little pads, sanitary towels in there, and then you'd close it up. And throughout, like, my school, they were offering, like, not at the school, sorry, but, you know, throughout my time at school, they Lilettes were bringing out all these different designs and, like, collectibles. So I feel like growing up, and I know that, you know, it's probably just a marketing clause, but, you know, growing up, it was nice to know that you know, other people in my year had these little tins, and we, you know, if you forgot yours on like P Day and you needed one or something like that, then you could just, you know, that your friends would have them. So like, I know obviously it's having that little tin just made me feel like they were a bit more hidden. So like, if the boys did look in your bag or anything like that, they weren't going to look and just see a pad. So it's about maybe like getting a little bag as well. If you are at school and you're just feeling a little bit uncomfortable, then you can just keep them in there and no one's, you know.
But you shouldn't have to, should you?
No, you shouldn't have to. But I mean, if it makes you feel a little bit,
it is how you feel, absolutely.
But it's nicer to have that positive perception around things.
Yeah, I mean, it's really positive that was a
to
positive
have specific
experience,
things of like, you know, the tins or the bags to just be like, that's because it's nicer to have that association, isn't it? Of like, oh, I've got a little collectible tin.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice.
And I don't think they do them anymore. But
no, I think honestly, it was a little thing.
I
think I had one.
Yeah, I loved them.
So I do think that's important around the language, around breaking stigma, around, because we, you know, there's different phrases that people can use for being on your period. You know, the technical one is, you know, because obviously it's like no one really goes, I'm menstruating.
Nobody says that. No.
The uterus lining is shedding.
I'm in the menstruation phase.
Yeah, so.
But I do think we should use that kind of language more, just so that it's used more like.
Yeah, because you can say things quite discreetly, like it's the time of the month.
Yeah, I'm on
the blob.
Yeah, and what was the one?
On the rag.
On the rag, yeah. So that comes from World War One. So I was telling you earlier, wasn't I, that obviously in World War One they needed obviously something to help them with their periods, and so they used cloths.
Yeah.
And obviously then that came the phrase that she's on the rag.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from, which is pretty cool.
I've never heard this phrase before, so I quite like it.
That makes me think of like, when did period products get invented? I haven't actually looked into that.
No, it's probably something, we definitely need to look into that. But I think that's where it came from, is literally in World War One, that they were trying to obviously nurse or whatever, and they were bleeding, so they used the cloths, the rags, and that's when it then began.
I wonder if before then, women just sort of stayed home then? Because if it was only World War One, which was what, 1914?
Yeah, so really
1910. 1930.
I think 1914 might have been the Titanic. I'm confused.
No, World War Two was the 1940s, can we say? So no, it was 1910.
I wonder if before women just didn't go out.
It would be interesting to know, and I think some actually, when you look into it, like especially if you go like far back, there was a lot of like separation from people that were on their periods, like that they should go away and have their period away from me, because it's you know, it's they shouldn't be in the same bed as me. I mean, there's still some of that there in particular cultures where they have to share separate beds when they're on their periods. And that was obviously more happening a lot more, you know, prehistorically, that if you were on your period, it was either a sacred time or it was a time that was like almost sinful.
Go and deal with that.
Go and deal with that. I don't want to be.
I mean, in any period drama, I mean, I know Bridgerton isn't much for it is period drama, not, but there's in season 1 it was just like she was waiting to come onto a period and they would just kept checking the bed sheets, so they would just free bleed onto the bed sheets.
They must have just free bleeded.
Yeah. And I wonder around like when period products became made. Well, when they were made, really.
Maybe we research that, because I do think it'd be interesting.
I'm pretty sure it is about World War One when like On the Rag came about, and they decided that cloths were working to absorb period blood, and then obviously it goes from there, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
There are cultural differences around periods as well, like we say, different perceptions and ideas around what a period is, how you should act, what you should be like, because there is obviously period poverty there.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we looked into some research around girls missing school because of the periods.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. So one of the like statistics I saw that was in Africa, like 1 out of every 10 girls miss school during their period, and that then equates to like 20% of school time that they've missed because of that. Which then in education terms is a lot of things that they've missed because they just don't have access to the resources, sanitary products, and that's quite similar in other countries, like Egypt and places like that. It's also very similar in the fact that there isn't access to certain types of sanitary products. but that also accounts for some people in this country. Do you know what I mean?
Like, definitely.
It's 100%. Yeah. It's worth saying that not everyone has that access here either.
No.
You know, you're very dependent on what family you're in.
Of course, yeah, and you are going to prioritise different essentials, obviously.
Of course. If you can only afford to eat,
you're going to
eat, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's difficult, and that's why it's so important that, you know, education systems and workplace environments are, and
public places as well. I always think it's really sweet when, you know, restaurants or just public toilets have a little basket with products in, with a bit of body spray. It's just nice.
And I think that is becoming more common, isn't it? Like a lot of restaurants now, or even like supermarket toilets, like they have like the thing on, say if you need access to like sanitary towels. I'm sure it's in Morrison's. It says ask for this, and you can they'll give you a sanitary towel.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I think that's really good, especially for youngsters. Or just anyone that's been caught short. I mean, how many times have you been out and
you're not expecting it?
All of a sudden you're on your period and you think, oh my gosh.
Which is why tracking's so good.
Absolutely, yeah. There we go.
Love that.
I think schools can take from that though. If I worked in a school, I would be like, let's get some. I know a few teachers actually, and they've said that they do keep sanitary products in the drawers for the girls, and I think that, you know, it would mean a lot to you as a student knowing that there's a teacher there. You could be like, oh miss, I just need it, and she'd be like, I've got you. That means so much, doesn't it? Because you can feel really vulnerable and you can feel embarrassed. You shouldn't have to feel embarrassed, but you can't, you know, it's okay to feel how you feel. Your feelings are valid, and it's nice to know that someone understands and can give that reassurance.
Yeah, 100%.
And actually, when I was doing my research, I found that from I think it was about November 23, so for school like 2024, that they actually state-funded schools in the UK get funding now to provide period sanitary products. That's literally just started happening this year. But whether all schools are accessing that funding, I don't know. But they can. So if you go on the government website, you can go on there and you can see that you actually are entitled to a certain amount of funding depending on how many students you have. So, you know, check it out if that's not already known. I don't know. I would like to think that people already know about it, but
yeah, and I think as well it's important to add that, you know, I know there's obviously the big brands out there like Tampax and Always, and like we were saying earlier, the Littlettes, but and obviously they're fantastic products, but it's also like really key to know that there are supermarkets who do their own branded stuff. And they are a fraction of the price of, you know, the non-branded. So
they're less than £1, aren't they, for a pack? It's like 44p, I think, in Tesco.
Yeah, for, you know, a pack of sanitary towels, which
and
hopefully
they're literally fine.
And they work, and hopefully, you know, it would last for your entire period. So, you know, I know obviously it's not accessible for everybody, which is why obviously it's brilliant that the schools are doing it. But for those that can, who are still short, you know, financially. You know, it's key to know that supermarkets such as Tesco's, Morrison's,
got their own brands,
Aldi, Lidl, they all have their own brands of fantastic sanitary products that are, you know, affordable and accessible for everybody, really, aren't they?
Yeah, to be honest, so like just following on from that, like when I did my little bit of research, like I saw that, you know, there's quite a couple of websites out there where you can request, you know, sanitary products. So freedomforgirls.co.uk is a really good one, and I think if you're like an organisation, you can actually request more,
that's really
which is really helpful, and you can also donate, so please go and check that out because that's really useful. But also, like we were saying, like there are a lot of charities, kind of like centres that, you know, do offer period products.
I think obviously community hubs and places like that, I'm sure they will provide support. Obviously it depends on your local area, but there is always support there, and you know, we would happily donate period products. No questions asked. That is just because it is just something that everyone should have access to.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can look at doing that, is, you know, getting some stuff together and going out and, you know, donating some stuff. I
will say that like Always and Littlettes, and like Always definitely is a website I've looked on before. They've just got information around your menstrual cycle, around products, just some education, and that's quite obviously a well-known brand. So there is readily available information to look through if you ever wanted reassurance or you had questions about periods.
And I think it's important as well to add that, you know, there are so many different types of sanitary towels that can that have got like the little teardrops almost, like the little water drops.
Yeah, based on your flow.
Based on your flow, and it's the same with the tampons. The different colours are not based on, you know, the size of your vagina.
Yeah,
No,
it's so important to mention.
Yeah, like super or regular.
Doesn't mean
it's
you've got
not
a
based
massive
on
vagina.
Yeah, it's not based on the size of your vagina. It's based on your flow and how
Absolutely.
much blood is needed to be absorbed.
Yeah.
And wearing tampons doesn't take your virginity is also a very
Yeah,
valid point to mention.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that, you know, that is said quite a lot, and it's just completely not true.
No, absolutely.
Tampons can be difficult to use as well.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be expected to know how to use a tampon.
No.
Yeah.
It is difficult. It's difficult whether obviously it just comes in the packet or it comes with an applicator. There are always instructions on the back, but I would always, you know, ask someone.
Of course, I struggled
lovely-
with it. I'll be totally honest. Like,
because it is. It's
didn't
not. It's
have a
not
clue what to do
comfortable.
with it. Yeah.
So I mean, some women find it comfortable, and some women that's their preferred.
Yeah.
You
Method,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, but
I am an avid tampon user.
oh yeah.
You love tampons.
That's my fave. I think I started my periods when I was about 11, and I believe I was going on holiday like in a couple of months' time. My mum was like, you need to, if you want to go on holiday and you're on your period, we need to get you used to like using tampons. So I was introduced really young, and I just found it so much more comfortable. But I think it is, like you say, it's everyone's preference. Like for me, a pad, I just don't find them comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas like some people don't find tampons.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think
And there's
you've got
like
a balance.
menstruation cups as well, and
Yeah.
Oh
you
yeah.
know they're reusable, which is great for the
Period underwear
environment.
recently as well.
Period
That's become
underwear,
more of a
yeah.
thing. They
Yeah.
sell that in high street shops.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you feel more comfortable with,
Just
that is
finding
also
your
available.
option and not being ashamed to ask. Really,
Yeah.
like if you need help, like you know, it shouldn't be a taboo subject to ask someone how you use a tampon or you know what size pad am I supposed to buy, because you go into like Asda or any other supermarket and there's just like shelves of them. Like how are you supposed to know which one's the right one to buy? I don't think I ever buy the same ones. I don't know. I just literally grab what. That looks alright.
Probably what's on offer, to be honest.
Yeah, that's cheap. I'll have that one.
They're pink and they look pretty.
Exactly.
And the lemon and lime,
Oh,
as boys say.
Yeah, if it's I think like regular is green and super is yellow, and I saw this girl ask her boyfriend like, what do you think the difference is, and he was like, is that one lemon flavoured, is that one lemon flavoured?
We don't put them in our
just
bed.
to disclaimer, tampons are not flavoured.
Yeah.
It's not.
We don't get them.
Yeah.
We don't get the taste of
Yeah,
them. That's
no.
not how it works.
No.
Love that. Love that.
Obviously, if you are experiencing PMS, which obviously we've covered the symptoms, if you are experiencing more extreme symptoms than that and it's becoming something that's quite debilitating, is stopping you from going to school, stopping you from going to work, and your low mood can be quite extreme, or you're experiencing suicidal thoughts around that time in your menstrual cycle, it is important to get help. That could be something which is known as PMDD, which is more severe symptoms of PMS. And Vicky Patterson recently spoke out around PMDD. There is support for it. Obviously, you can look for further support through gynecology and through healthcare professionals. So again, just noticing symptoms, noticing how much you're affected, and tracking your period.
Yeah.
She's back again
I'm
on
all
the pin
about
tracker.
it. I'm all about it.
Help is available, and it is definitely worth it. You know, if you are having really like even heavy periods as well, like
And to
That's
be
a good
honest,
symptom,
go and speak to a
Health
GP
professional,
or
If
I
you
don't
have any
think
concerns-
PMDD is commonly spoken about, is it?
No,
Is the
it's
issue?
not. I think it is more something that is recently come into light. And that can be a scary thing, you know, if you don't know about it. Have a bit of a read on it, have a bit of a research on it if you're finding it relatable. Again, you know, when we speak around diagnosis, it can be something that's quite empowering and enlightening. It's something that you relate to and something that, you know, particularly you suffer with. You're not alone. You never are alone, and there is support there to talk around how you're feeling, to potentially look at the role of medication or further support in healthcare.
But
Brilliant.
So thank you very much, guys, and
Thank
thank
you.
you, beautiful ladies.
Thank you.
And as always, guys, ask everybody, are you okay, babe?
Ask your friends, ask your neighbour, ask the
Yeah.
man in the street.
Everyone.
Granny, your uncle, you okay, babe?
And if you need any help, any support with sanitary products, please drop us an email.
Yeah, please.
And we can, see what we can do. We are going to be looking into doing some donations
definitely.
But yeah, if you need help, please, you know,
or just any particular experience that we haven't mentioned that you would like us to. There's never any judgment. This space is judgment free.
Yeah, absolutely.
Complete safe
so
space
please do
for us
feel
too.
as though.
Yeah.
I love being here.
Love you guys.
Love
Thank you.